These moral challenges that I will identify is based on the speech of Dr. Oscar Arias, the president of the Costa Rica from 1986 to 1990. He strongly proposes that the moral challenges of globalization demands a fundamental change in values, focusing on human security, democracy, and economic justice. Good day everyone, and today I will gonna identify the moral challenges of globalization. And the first one is the human security. When we talk about human security, it is a first step toward global thinking that requires that we adopt a definition of peace that goes beyond the short-sighted demands of national security. This distinction bears frequent repetition. Human security is not just a concern with weapons, but it is a concern with human life and dignity. It is to protect the vital core of all human lives in a ways that enhance human freedoms and human fulfillment. Human security means protecting fundamental freedoms, freedoms that are the essence of life. It means protecting people from critical and pervasive threats and situations. Human security integrates three freedoms, which is the freedom from fear, freedom from want, and the freedom from indignity. Freedom from fear refers to protecting individuals from threats directed at their security and physical integrity and includes various forms of violence that may grip against others and the acts of individual against others individuals. Freedom from want refers to the protection of individuals so that they might satisfy their basic needs and the economic, social, and environmental aspects of life and livelihoods. Freedom from indignity refers to the promotion of an improved quality of life and enhancements of human welfare that permits people to make choices and seek opportunities for the empower them. Strategist human security has two strategies of action, which is the protection and the empowerment. So protection is defined by the Commission on Human Security as a strategy set up by states, international agencies, NGOs, and the private sector to shield people from menaces. It implies establishing top-down measures, recognizing that people face threats that are beyond their control. Human security requires systematic, comprehensive, and preventive protection. States have primary responsibility to implement such protection, while other actors, such as an international bodies, civil society, and NGOs play a pivotal role. Empowerment is the strategist and enable people to develop their resilience to difficult situations and implies bottom-up measures that aim to develop the capacity of individuals and communities to make informed choices and to act on their own behalf. Empowerment that only enables people to develop their full potential but also permits them to participate in the design and implementation of solutions to ensure human security for themselves and others. So the second one is the democratic values. It is a second step in global thinking to expand our understanding in democracy. When we talk about democratic values, it is the ideas or beliefs that make a society fair, including democratic decision making, freedom of speech, and many more. Too often, democracy is discussed only in its most formal mood. People are satisfied that democracy has a place in the constitution of the state, but make no room for democracy in the constitution of their own soul. They do not let it affect their daily interactions, their personal relationships, or their professional ambitions. For this reason, some of our greatest leaders have called to profound changes in our values. But the democratic revolution isn't merely sentimental and individualistic. Yes, it demands changes in the way we live and the way we understand ourselves. But it also promises to change the structures that govern our society. For, at its core, democracy is a radical philosophy of civic participation. It is the faith that through public dialogue and the inclusive deliberation, ordinary individuals can build ever better systems for living together. Democracy rests on the need for all citizens, not only the most powerful, to be able to influence meaningful the political and economic institutions that affect their lives. You must embrace the responsibility that comes from with this privilege. And this democracy, there is no room for guilt, but only for compassion. The point is not to feel guilty about the gifts you have to receive, but to feel always committed to the struggles to guarantee that all people may live such dignified lives. There is no place for resignation, but only for determination. Though world problems may seem overwhelming, you must be determined to make your mark against poverty and inequality. And there is no stopping at simple charity, but instead, you must expand your solidarity, your concern for health and well-being, and others must spread through all lands. And the third one is the economic justice. It leads us to a third crucial component of global thinking, and that is reformulating our views of economic justice. We must remember that true democracy is not merely the distribution of political power, but also the distribution of economic power. Sadly, in this age of huge corporate mergers, this fact is too often overlooked. It is overlooked by many policymakers and business people who quietly solidify a global economic order based on cynicism and individual profit. But for many poor and working people throughout the world, it is an obvious fact. Economic justice is a set of principles for which economic infrastructure is developed around, wherein the ultimate goal is to create an environment with equal opportunity for each individual and to establish a material foundation of which people can achieve a creative, dignified, and productive life. Modern economics revolves around the concept of distributing capital and labor in such a way that everyone is better off. Therefore, economic justice is rooted in the idea that an economy will be more successful if all market participants are treated fairly. The goal is to create for everyone to potentially thrive and prosper. With justice working in lockstep with that concept, pure capitalism revolves around allowing the market to decide where labor and capital are distributed. However, if pure capitalism is left without intervention, it will lead to extreme inequality and wealth disparity between the holders of capital and the laborers. It goes against the concept of capitalism, which is that it should make everyone better off. Although there is more overall wealth, most of the wealth disproportionately ends up in the hands of the capital holders. In order to address the inequality of the systems that from pure capitalism, economic justice aims to create equal opportunities for all members of the economy. Now, if all citizens can earn an income for themselves, they will spend more, which will stimulate the economy further. So why economic justice is very important? Economic justice can be applied in many different forms. For example, it can be used to address wage gaps and the exploitation of workers. An example is a worker who is in the position of work in which they are not able to fully utilize their skills given their situation. For the worker, it leads to earnings that are not at the full potential capacity. For the economy, it creates inefficiency as well there is a lack of employment and that desired skills, and there is less spending from the worker who earned less. In terms of exploitation workers, if pure capitalism is left without any intervention, those who hire laborers achieve an unfair amount of power over their workers less than the market amount. It is also results in inefficiency, as the workers feel that they cannot leave the job since they need to provide their families, but they cannot seek a job where they are paid fairly.